Good evening, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you all tonight on the first of the 5 Dharma talks that you will be hearing. And as you may have read, the title of our Dharma talk series is We Are the Way. So what does that really mean? For that, we really have to clarify 2 important concepts. What are we? That's number 1. And what is the way? That's number 2. So, to really understand how powerful human beings are and what our minds are capable of, we should really take a close look at ourselves first. What are we? We can see that we are very, very impermanent beings. We are bound to conditions. We are bound to cause and effect. Nonetheless, great teachers, including Buddha Shakyamuni himself, he said that all beings have Buddha nature. Not only that, he said that out of the 6 realms, only human realm can attain enlightenment. And that's a very big leap of faith. That's a very big credit given to human beings if you look around and see what we are doing. So why is it that great teachers say, including Shakyamuni Buddha himself, all beings are capable of enlightenment, and human beings especially are capable of it? And yet, what are we doing? So, how is this possible? And it's possible because we do not answer this question clearly and deeply enough. What are we? And that's why when we teach practice, when we teach Suheng or Chamson or Kanhwason, all these names you know already, that means that we try to really attain who we are. What is the substance that we are made of? Because if we do not do that, we cannot enter the way. We cannot enter the path towards liberation and enlightenment. So, number 1, what are we, human beings? Number 2, what is the way? Here it's not a capital W, because we don't know what it is. We don't know how precious it is. We have concepts, we have ideas, people have like and dislike mind. What is the way really? We don't know. To be able to answer this, first we really have to begin with ourselves. Ourselves as a person. And I know that for Koreans, singling out an individual and making an I is very strange, right? Koreans don't do that. Usually they think in terms of family or group or even larger family or larger group, okay? That's why this country is blessed with a wonderful group culture, which is supported by many, many religions, traditions, you know. But to be able to answer this, then we have to really begin with, what am I? And that's why the Huadu says, this one here. What is this? Ige Muashinga. Okay, so what is this really? And this I, if you look deeply inside, is not really a person. You don't find a name or a form inside. I won't tell you what you find. I let you find that out. Okay? But you don't find a person here. You don't find an individual here. You find a lot of thoughts, a lot of emotions, a lot of memories, a lot of like and dislike thinking. But you don't find an I. Okay? So instead of asking about the I, we ask about this. Now, if you say in live speech to somebody this, it's very insulting, right? We like to think of ourselves as a person. And we have to address the other being, as a person, right? We have to do that, otherwise it's very rude, okay? But the truth of the matter is, independent of culture, independent of manners of speech, is that if you look inside, you don't find this person that you are looking for. Now, that's where the mind revolution can begin. That's where our entrance to the path becomes clear. Because the gate of no thinking is the gate of no I. Okay? This actually means no I. Okay? This is very important. So, the gate of no path, the Mumon Kan, okay? That's the gate of no thinking, that's the gate of no I. And when you have passed through that gate, okay, this gate of Mumon, okay, no gate, then you enter the path. Now, you may ask, what kind of path are we talking about? In the same way, when we look at human beings and we want to talk about enlightenment and Buddha nature, what kind of human beings are we talking about? And when you look at the path, first we look at our impermanence, our real human situation. So let's get down to the very basic facts of our existence. When we are born, birth time, when we are born, what happens? Basically, it happens at conception, but later it becomes stronger. So what is it? Body and mind connect. That's how we are born. The moment of conception is that mind and body becomes connected. Okay? And I have to put here conception too, because when a child is conceived, then the first contact is established. It's very important. It's not later, it's then. Okay? Depending on the karma of the mother and the father, they invite a being, you know. And their union seals the connection between the new mind and the new body. Okay? So that's what birth is. And then birth becomes life. Life means mind and body are together. Not just connected and growing, but they are together and they are functioning together. They have a lot of interaction, okay? You feel upset, you know, your face becomes red, okay? You feel very much worried, your stomach becomes tight, okay? Or somebody, you know, goes to Mogyoktang, then becomes relaxed. Mind also becomes relaxed, okay? That's why we like to go to Mogyoktang. Okay? So, that's life. So birth becomes life. We are in time and space with our body. Here, at the birth time, our small journey through time and space began, but when we are born, and we become an independent body, that's when it really begins. Until then, in mother's belly, it's not really time and space for us. It's before that. We don't have senses active, okay? We don't have a will on our own. Of course, we kick in the belly, mothers know that, but we don't have so much freedom to do what we really want, okay? In life, we believe that we have more freedom, okay? So, birth is really important because that's when body and mind becomes fused together, but still no time and space experience. Not awake. Senses are not used. So here, you can say, and some people may argue with that, sense is zero. You don't have your own eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, although your mind starts to function and kick around a little bit. So here, no senses, but here in life, we have senses. Senses, yes, and here it's no or zero. And that's what a sentient being is. That's what we are, by default as we are born. We are sentient beings because our mind is linked to the body. And our body gives feedback to our minds. Okay? So, senses, so we are sentient being. Sentient being is not a sin. Sentient being is not bad karma. Sentient being is a choice. Now, how much aware were you when you made that choice? Do you remember? Mostly we don't remember. Okay, so we were not much awake when we did, when we made that choice. So when you become a Zen student, stop thinking in terms of good and bad, but rather see impermanence, cause and effect, and conditioned existence. Okay? Very important. So this is life. We are using the senses. The body and the mind are actively, independently working. And here, as you are born, in the birth time, during pregnancy, your I, my, me is very little. Also, this little child, when born, only very simple, function. Eat, cry, little poop, little pee, needs a lot of love, and protection, okay? Not so much I, but then the mind starts to develop, okay? And then around year 3 and 5, the intellect is like a lotus flower opens up, and this little child starts to form totally clear sentences and starts to think and like things and dislike things, okay? So that's life. That's life. We become independent. We have a sense of I. So here, we can also say no senses and also no sense of I. But here we have senses, and here we have I. We have it. Okay? So when you see it as a process, it stops being so mysterious. What we have brought here. We brought here something very simple, but we are not aware of it. So we are sentient beings. Now, when our lives are over, then what comes? Not so nice part. Dying. Sickness and dying. Decay. And dying. So the mind, as it depends on the body, attached to the body, sometimes identifies with the body, okay? As the body goes down and becomes old, parallel mind becomes also less functional, okay? So old people cannot remember so well, cannot think so smart. Their emotions are more frail, etc. They're more easy to offend. All these things just because body and mind, as they go together, they become very closely connected. So then, as the body changes, the mind also changes with it. But to the extent that you woke up, and we'll talk about that later, then only the body gets old, but the mind doesn't get old. But if you're attached to the body, you go with it. Okay? Whatever the body does or goes through, your mind also goes through it. Okay? And the dying process is when body and mind become totally separate. Okay? So the connection is done or gone, and they become separate. So basically, mind goes this way, body goes this way. That's the dying process. And there is the key, the energy, which links the body and mind here together, and you express that and use that with your breath. Okay? That's why in all meditation practice you watch your breath. Why? So as to experience the unity of body and mind, which is actually true when we are alive. So if you don't watch your breath, you don't attain what is life. And you cannot wake up to the nature of life and death also. So when we talk about Kanhwa-son or also Hwadu practice, many times we don't talk about watching your breath, but you are aware of the breath, because the breath is the key point to attain the moment. We'll talk about that a little later when we have finished this cycle. So dying process is body and mind become separate, which is the total opposite of the birth process, when body and mind slowly becomes fused together. And then in the state of death, which is the fourth, in the state of death, you have no body. And if you practice really hard and you let go of all your attachments, anger, desire, and ignorance, all your dualities, you also have no mind. That means nirvana. Okay? No body, no mind. Nirvana. That means no birth, no death. But most of us don't get to that point, because in our lives we are dealing with different priorities. Some other things are more important than attaining full liberation. Therefore, we have mind. And this mind has a content. And if you remember last year's talks, or you have some other sources, of course, then you understand the term alaya vijnana. Okay? That's your eighth consciousness. Also, you have manas, which is the seventh consciousness, and below the other six is eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind. Read the Heart Sutra. It's there. Okay? Thinking mind. These six, when you die, they stop functioning because they are linked to the body. And in the state of death, your mind carries the content of seventh and eighth. So, manas and alaya. That's what we call your karma body. Okay? Together, karma body. And this karma body wants a new physical body to continue where you stopped, where death made you stop. Okay? So this is the cycle of existence, simplified. I hope this is logical. I hope this is clear for you, at least conceptually, how this works. Because that's what we have been going through hundreds and thousands, if not more, lifetimes. Think about it in this way. And then our original human responsibility comes to the surface, because entering the path is really asking this question: where do we go with all these lives and deaths? Do we have any direction to it? Or we are just migrating in the cycle of life and death all around, and around. That's why the Zen masters of old and currently they say, go straight. No thinking, no opposites, no life, no death. Go straight. If you go straight on the path of no mind, you wake up and you become free from this cycle. If you want to. But if you don't want to, you don't have to. Okay? It's your choice. So, this is all clear, right? So, let's look at the way our path, and especially our life, because we like life, most of this, The other, this is birth is, mothers remember it when they gave birth, the kind of, great love. But when it actually happens, it's mostly painful. Dying is also kind of painful. And death, we don't want to think about it because we don't actually know what happens. And there are many conflicting views what happens there. So we don't want to think about that because it's kind of, it's a little distant. But we love life. We love it, And if we didn't love it so much, we wouldn't be born, by the way, So what happens when we have this great life that we want? Well, the first thing that happens, which is something that I mentioned, is that we are bound to the body. And we love our bodies also when we are young. when we are not so young anymore, then why did this have to happen? That's the question. And we, of course, try all kinds of measures, and sometimes sports and beauty salons and whatnot to keep it nice and sporty and beautiful and handsome. But, sorry, body also has a shelf life. And when this shelf life is gone, your body goes to the cemetery. It's finished. So what do we really do when we enter time and space? Why are we so impermanent, and what it really means, I want to explain in the next chapter of this introduction, and soon after that I'll welcome all your questions. So when we're born, we enter time and space. I have explained that from the person's point of view, but how about the world? Okay? What does the world look like to us when we are bound to this body? It looks in a very interesting way because we have 3 dimensions of space. We have a sense of space, okay? And we have 1 dimension of time. Past, present, future. This is low, high, here, there, left and right. 3 dimensions seem to be enough. I mean, normally we don't use the other one so much. We use only 2. Of course, we need height also to have body height, but we don't use the 3rd dimension as much as airplanes or birds. And we don't think about that too much. I mean, unless you really go into the nature of the physical universe, you don't think every day about space, unless you have a very small apartment somewhere. But time is something we think about because we don't have 3 dimensions in time. We only have 1. And this 1 dimension of time presses us relentlessly, irreversibly from past, present to the future. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to say that this is the blueprint of our impermanence. In this space, if you want to reverse your course and you decide not to go to Angukyog because you want to go to Chongno Samga, you just turn around. You make a U-turn, right? It's very easy. You make a U-turn. You can do that in space, but you cannot do that in time. If I say, okay, let's make a U-turn and go back to 6:15, because I want to start again. I didn't like so much what I said, so I really want to start again. Could we do that? No. That's why we are impermanent. You cannot go back in time if you are in this body living this human life. I have to say that, okay? Because this life, which was the second of the 4, this life means that we are sentient beings and we are bound to these senses and this kind of thinking. And this kind of instrument called a human being perceives existence as 3 dimensions in time and, 3 dimensions in space and 1 dimension in time. Now, if you want to experience the universe independent of the body and the mind, which is our purpose, then we don't know. We don't know how many dimensions of space we have and how many dimensions of time we have. But what we know is that as we are human beings with our eyes, ears, nose, tongue, body, and mind, we experience life like this. This is very important because time and space are not absolute. They are relative. And there were 2 very important lines of tradition which independently pointed that out. Everything in Asia, Buddhism, Taoism, Zen, and in the West, physics. Einstein found that too, not just the Buddha and the patriarchs, that time and space are relative. But the fact that, that time and space depend on the mind, depend on our being, only the deep mind tradition or meditation tradition pointed that out. Why? Because we found out that, in fact, time is not linear. It's linear when we are alive. Okay? But you know people who can become independent of their thinking and their like and dislike mind, and they can go forward. They are the soothsayers. Everybody can go a little bit backwards to remember, you know, what kind of meal you gave to your family last week. But we cannot really go forward to the future, but some individuals can do that. So it's a proof that we can actually become independent of our bondage to body and thinking, and actually we can perceive various dimensions of time because it's not an absolute quantity. It's not an absolute part of our existence, just like space. Okay? So why I'm doing this intellectual and abstract explanation, which I hope is kind of concrete and logical for you. Why? Because we should really see this world as created by our being as we are. If we are equipped with a different type of body, with different senses, and maybe not with a dualistic thinking, but a different kind of thinking, then we experience this world differently. Okay? Then we don't know how many dimensions of time and space we have, but what we know is that when all your dualism or dualistic thinking disappears, then time and space also disappears. You and the world as a dual existence also disappears. It's in the sutras also. It can be your own meditation experience also. Is this clear? Great. Fantastic. So that's what our life is. And that's why we have impermanence as our major marker. And in this time and space continuum, we have names and forms. And all of us, in our interaction, is called cause and effect. Okay? So we are bound to these conditions while we are alive. And when we die, we carry our karma to the next one. So that's why the Suheng, you know, is not just being a good person. Sometimes in Asian countries, including Korea, Buddhism became a religion of the good people and the kind of humble and repenting people who try to just get rid of their bad karma and get some good karma. That's not good and not bad, actually. It makes society better. It makes your life, you know, higher quality. But the next level, the next application of this is really become free from the bondage of life and death. Become free from the bondage of the absolute notion of time and space. Okay? That's when you start to use a spaceship as a spaceship and not just as a shopping car. Okay? Okay. So then we come to the second question, the path. So if we really answer the first question, what are we and what is this life and what is death, then we begin to sort out what is the path and what is not the path. Okay? Most of the time, we follow our like and dislike mind, which is like this. Okay? We have something, we don't have something. We got to the place where we wanted to go, or we lost our way. We didn't have our GPS. We met the person we wanted, or we didn't meet the person we wanted. Okay? We built up some wealth, then we lost the wealth. Okay? We built up a relationship, better and better, and overnight it's cut. The person you loved most just thrashes you and you're out in the street. So we follow this kind of up and down, up and down, up and down. Okay? And if you put that into the time and space matrix that I outlined, this is not just up and down, this is also around. Around, around, and around. It's the same. Because around is as we are born and we die, and in our lives we just follow this like and dislike mind. Okay? So when you go straight, then you start to reflect as a mirror. You can see it, but you don't follow it. Your center, your mind mirror, becomes stronger than the forces, your karmic forces, that pull you up and down. Okay? So that's why when you practice, you start to perceive, but not identify with and not follow these opposites, emotions and thoughts. This is very important. The world is testing us. In Korea now, that's a testing time for Korean Buddhism. How we conduct our way, what we believe in as ourselves, how we respond to challenges. Every single person with your mind, with our conduct, with our choice of direction, respond to these challenges. And you don't have to look for these challenges. They come to your doorstep. They go into the temples. They ask you. They provoke you. How do you respond? If you have this clear mirror mind, this not moving center, then you can reflect and not identify with these things. Then you can stay truly in your center. You can stay truly beyond life and death. Okay? If we don't do this, then the straight path is broken up into the cycles of life, death, dying, and being born. And then our lives can also include a lot of suffering, because this is not, again, bad because somebody says so, or because somebody put it into a book. This means you lose energy. Okay? You lose awareness and you lose energy. When you return to your center, to your not moving, clear mirror mind, that means you get your energy back from all these processes. So this not moving speech, not moving body, and not moving mind is not a religious ideal. It's our potential to become Buddha. Okay? So, again, this is just a little bit of a geometric help, but I hope that from my words you understood, the meaning of this teaching. So now, if you have any questions, please feel free to ask, and there's time to think until I clear off this chalkboard, okay? So, does anybody have any questions? Any kind of question. Don't be shy. Okay?
Is reincarnation is another samsara or rebirth?
Reincarnation and samsara are kind of synonymous. To put it simple, it's like that. But again, if you make samsara, you have samsara. If you don't make anything, that's original point. That has no name, no form, no life, no death. You can call that nirvana or liberation or enlightenment, but originally no name, no form. And what I have not mentioned, but you should hear right now, based on this good question, is that the key point is the moment. Because how do you really become free from this bondage of one dimension in time, this impermanent, relentless, time-based existence? Is that you stop thinking and attain this moment. And in this moment, there is no time, no space, which means infinite time, infinite space. Okay? Very important. This moment has no thinking. And in this no thinking moment, there is no time, no space, which means infinite time, infinite space. Okay? Then no samsara. Also, you can make any kind of life and also any kind of death. Okay? More questions? What is time, I ask you? Correct. Almost 7 o'clock. That's time now, to put it simple. So, anybody has any questions?
Venerable, sometimes I think Buddhism is enigma, some kind of mystery.
Some kind of what?
Riddle.
Need?
Enigma.
Enigma. Yeah, okay.
Because Buddhism stands on big paradox.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Buddhism teachers, form is afterneath spawn,
Uh-huh.
and this also teaches. We have a Buddha nature. Our true nature is no form, no name, no limit, no boundaries. Yes, I have a Buddha nature like any other people, but at the same time, I'm just an individual who have a body like this, who have a name, who have a limits and boundaries. Each paradox is too big, too hard. I cannot digest it.
Of course.
Yeah. How?
You cannot digest that
Yes.
because the I cannot digest that. So you make I, you have I. And the paradox is designed to blow it away. I mean, don't know must be much bigger and stronger than your sense of ego to work. Otherwise, don't know doesn't work. And it's correct. Live with the paradox. Live with the paradox.
It's
Because,
so difficult.
really? So being human is difficult?
Life is difficult.
No, don't say that. Life is beautiful.
Sometimes it's very beautiful, but sometimes it's terrible.
Why is that? It's true that if you have beautiful, you have terrible. But why is that?
Because of my ego.
No, we make it so. I mean, where's your ego? Put it here. Your ego does not exist. I was teaching very clearly about that. We think that it does, and we identify with that thinking, so we believe it's real. Okay?
But if I survive, I need the ego, the body and name and home. And
Posalim. Survive? Survive what? Nobody survives.
As an individual,
But let me ask you, what do you survive?
I don't know.
That's it. Nobody survives.
Nobody.
Nobody. Everybody in this room in 60 years, maybe 70, will be dead. Nobody survives. There was a great saying by somebody who always had these good people who wanted to save his life. And he says, I don't want to survive, I want to live. So to live, you need energy, clarity, wisdom, compassion.
Body.
Of course, and body we all have. Okay. Like I said, body is no problem. Dualistic mind, that's a problem. Okay? So what do you really need? You don't need a sense of ego. But what you need is wisdom, compassion, love, and all these qualities that make life open, clear, and accessible to other people, as well as you can access other people. So that means no boundaries, no separations, but clear distinctions, you know, where your space begins and where other people's ends, where your job begins and other people's ends. So I think, you know, you only have to look inside, and then you can perceive your situation, relationship, and function really well. So, getting back to the paradox. You should love paradox. You know why? Because paradox is like human being. Human being is like paradox, you know? What is the biggest paradox? The fact is that we are so impermanent, we are just like a flicker in the universe. The universe has been here for billions of years, whereas the teaching says for millions of aeons. That means, okay, kalpas or world cycles. We don't know how many we have had, okay? Compared to that, as the Diamond Sutra says, we are just like a bubble in the stream. Bam! Just like that. Our life is like this bubble appearing, and we're dead. So we don't survive anything, all right? And the biggest paradox is that in this bubble type of existence, we can get enlightenment. The Buddha did, the patriarchs did, great monks and nuns do, great lay people do. So in this bubble existence, in this fleeting moment, we can wake up. And let me tell you, if we had 600 or 700 years or 1,000 years to live, we would be probably a lot more lazy about it. But we know from the first real conscious moment that we have no time. We cannot make a U-turn in time. We have very little time, okay? So live with the paradox because it's the truth. If you disregard paradoxes and I want to know something for certain, I want logic, I want systematic and clear knowledge, that limits you. That limits you like into a square. But if you dare to ask the question and you keep the paradox in the question, then this paradox will lead you. Because then you don't fall to either side of thinking. Okay?
Paradox leads me?
Of course, paradox leads you, and you know where you find the best paradoxes? In kongans.
Kongan is a paradox? Some kind of paradox?
Absolutely. Is the closest to the Greek definition of paradox, because what is paradox linguistically? Just linguistically, look at the word. You have parachute, paraglide, parapsychology, and you have paradox. What is the para part here? Para means over or beside or above. Okay? Dox comes from the Greek word doxa, which is conceptual or intellectual knowledge. So a paradox is something which cannot be explained because it's above your intellectual knowledge. That's a paradox. And a kongan is exactly that. Okay? One of the best kongans, it's a simple kongan. Zen Master Joju, he visits two hermits. And he asks the first, "Did you attain it?" Then the hermit shows up his big fist. Then Joju says, "The water is too shallow. I cannot stay here." So he goes to the other hermit and says, "Did you attain it?" That hermit also shows his big fist. Then Joju bows to him and says, I've truly attained freedom from life and death. Paradoxical, right? Of course you cannot. That's what it was designed for. So then the question comes, why did Joju Sunim approve of one but not the other? Further questions. If you were the first monk, how would you have answered Joju? Further question. If you were the second monk, how would you have answered Joju? It's a small paradox. Okay? Very small paradox. Because just, what? I don't know. So the purpose of this kongan and all the other kongans is don't know. So that you could start to live with it and make friends with this don't know. And finally attain that and use that. Okay? Someday? No. Today. Okay? Before you go home. Okay? So, big paradox, bigger kongan. Okay? This is from Zen Master Hyangom, great classic Chinese Zen master. Hyangom, when they asked him what is Zen, he says, it's like a man hanging from a tree. He's hanging by his teeth, and his hands and feet are tied and bound. He cannot touch the tree or climb to the ground. Someone comes under the tree and says, why did Bodhidharma come to China? So, if this man up on the tree answers, open his mouth, falls down and dies, right? It's a very tall tree. But if he doesn't answer, then Zen Master Hyangom shoots him with an arrow. Because he doesn't do his job as a Zen student. Okay? So, if you were, each one of you, if you were hanging up on this tree, like that, how would you stay alive? Okay? Now, that's a middle class kongan. And a higher class kongan, one of the highest class we have ever had, is a very short sentence. I put it into your consciousness so that one day you may want to practice for it and solve it.